music rolling. Ready? And good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Morning Exiles for Friday morning. Glad to have you along with us this morning. We'll have a lot to talk about. We are, by the way, keeping an eye on the situation on I-10 westbound. Apparently, 42 inches of rain fell in 24 hours in the Beaumont, Orange, Vider area. A slightly smaller amount, but still significant in Metro Houston. The flooding is massive. All the authorities are saying this is making Hurricane Harvey look like a gentle storm. And our friends and neighbors, and a lot of us have relatives. My brother lives there. They're in a heap of trouble over there with the flooding. So I've got this little device here open to where if there are news headlines that might be interesting to you as we continue, we will pass those along to you.
You know, Houston, my heart goes out to them because it hasn't been that long since Harvey, and they were hit so hard by Harvey. And now this is just awful. And the last I checked, there's a major closure of Interstate 10 at the ship channel. And
it got hit by barges.
Yeah, just horrible. And this is the second incident on the ship channel in a week because they had Greenpeace dangling from that thing like apes last week.
Well, we will keep an eye on it. For those of you who have relatives in Houston, if they use Facebook, they might be using the checking in safe. But if not, you might want to give them a call. Cell service still seems to be working fairly well. They still have power in a lot of the areas, but that is probably not going to continue as they continue. Glad to have you with us on this Friday morning. As promised, we will do our segment, Foibles in the News, where the English language is completely ignored, but we're going to do that at the midway point of the show. Give you something to hang around for, to hear how the people who are delivering information to you mangle it so badly that you want to go, huh?
Yeah, no, seriously. But first, our first guest this morning is running for the state legislature. Some of you may remember him. He's been around town. He's been very active in politics. And Michael DiResto now wants to be your state representative for District 70. Michael, thanks for being on the program.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
Good. You should be over here. You've always had good pipes. You ought to be on this side.
Well, I mean, y'all are the professionals. Y'all are. You got it on the go here. Love the setup.
Well, we
like toys.
Yeah, we got
toys.
Food. So you have been in NGOs and in government for your entire professional career. For many, many years, you were the chief of staff for Richard Baker, who served Press Secretary. He served 10 terms in the United States Congress. And then you have been doing governmental affairs at the Greater Baton Rouge Chamber of Commerce?
So let me take you through it. 9 years as press secretary for Congressman Baker. In fact, I used to see you all the time,
yep,
right next to his office. Great experience, learned a lot, the importance of constituent service, the importance of doing your homework and being a subject matter expert. That kind of helps get bills through committee. Then from there, I was 6 years at the Division of Administration, Assistant Commissioner for Policy and Communication.
Oh, that's right. I'd forgotten about that.
And then Baton Rouge Area Chamber first as Senior Vice President overseeing our public policy and governmental affairs in the last 2 years as Executive Vice President.
So what made you decide to run for this seat? Franklin Foyle is in it now. He is term limited. And there are how many of you in this race?
So there's 5. I mean, part of the reason is the term limits. Somebody pointed out to me last year, your good friend Franklin is term limited. Maybe you should give it some thought. And really, it has a lot to do with what we just went through. I feel like I've spent more than 20 years kind of as a foot soldier for policies, pro-growth, conservative reform policies, and had a good conversation with my wife and kids, and decided, this could be a way to more directly influence how things are going in Louisiana. And this district is where we've lived for 23 years. It's the place we love, where we raised our kids, and if I can give back, that's what I want to do, certainly.
Do you feel like this is a good continuance of the kind of representation District 70 has had up until now?
I think we've had good representation. I'm good friends with Franklin. I think I'll be my own type of legislator when I get there. I have some background in communications. I feel as though I'll be a good articulator of conservative reforms, why I believe a conservative perspective is better for the quality of life of our constituents in the 70th District. I'm going to use what I learned from Richard Baker, be a policy wonk. Do your homework, know the ins and outs of bills, and if you're the last one there at committee, get your bill moving. I'm doing this not because it's just the next thing. I don't plan to just sit there. I want to get things done. There's a lot of challenges facing Louisiana, and we need to get real results.
What are your thoughts on what you would like to see accomplished in the legislature almost immediately? Now, we've heard people tell us, freshman legislators, they can't find the men's or ladies' room for the first 6 or 7 months. I think you will be the exception to that because you've had so much intergovernmental experience. So what would you really like to put at the top of your agenda?
Sure, but first on that point, I've observed and worked in that building for about 10 years, and I know a lot of the delegation, and first and foremost, you got to build up trust. There's not been a lot of trust in that building to get things passed, whether it's across the aisle or geographically. So that's one of the things. I've got some experience for coalition building, which you're going to need to get things done. One of the first orders of business would be to follow up on some ideas I had back in June and were announced when it comes to state and local match for flood protection. We had the risk of losing the $255 million that Congressman Graves secured because there is no local or state match. I put out some ideas of freeing up some capital outlay. They finally made that announcement. So that would be the first order of business, is making sure HB2, or the capital outlay bill, does make that shift of Comey River Diversion Canal dollars, which are now not needed at the state level because that's 100% match, and get that match in place for those 6 bayou and canal projects in East Baton Rouge. Transportation, there's talk that there might be a special session to deal with transportation. I think that would be a great opportunity to use some of my experience. I was kind of the leader putting together the crisis coalition. And so I think there needs to be a package of solutions there, including looking at the gas tax. But there are some other things that we can do. 30 other states supplement their gas tax with general fund. We do the opposite. We don't give any general fund to transportation, and then we pay for things that should be paid for with the general fund, like salaries and benefits and retirement, with the gas tax dollars. So I think there needs to be, kind of an across-the-board look at the revenue sources for DOTD. But transportation is super huge priority for our region, and it's got to be on the top of the list as things to cover.
Your district is not a district that is a tax user district. You're a taxpayer district. Your district has got a lot of people that pay a lot of income tax, real estate tax, right on down the board, which would make me think that your district is going to want you to do something about the excessive amount of tax money that's going into entitlement programs, as opposed to things like roads and drainage and things like that. I think you're gonna have a tug of war in there over that. The governor is campaigning, for better or for worse, on the fact that he expanded Medicaid. My opinion is, if you're the chief executive of the state, you want to reduce the people that are dependent upon state money. But that's the difference in philosophy. So where are you on this?
So we're going to have to do something. I know a little bit about the state budget. Eventually, the budget for the Department of Health is going to swallow up the rest of the budget.
Pretty close now.
We have seen what I think very incompetent management of the Medicaid expansion, where you had the Pelican Group last year come out, and then the legislative auditor confirmed tens of thousands of people being added to the rolls that were not eligible. And then in the last few weeks, you heard that they tried to put in an automatic removal system, which then started removing people who were eligible, so then they stopped that. I don't think we could say with any confidence right now that they've got a handle on who's eligible and who's in.
Go ahead.
And so I think the first order of business when it comes to the health department, are we on? Should I keep talking?
Hang on one second. We seem to be, Kevin's Tookus seems to be taking us off the...
I think it's my Tookus dude.
Should we plug in over here, perhaps?
I think it's somebody.
There we go.
I think it's a shakiest. Look, it just keeps coming and going.
It's this. It's not plugged in.
You shouldn't be taking photographs of this.
It all looks the same. Hi there. Did you miss our audio?
Now, where were we?
Okay. Let me pick up because I think we're going to need a lot stronger oversight of the health department and the Medicaid. There's got to be and you bring up the broader point is what kind of results are we delivering with this health system? We should be in the business of trying to encourage people to not be on government health care. So I think that is a huge area, and you're absolutely right. It's a district where people are going to want to see somebody fighting to protect their taxpayer dollars, and I think I'll be in a good position to be able to do that. I would love it if I'm fortunate enough to get elected. I'm going to make a case for myself to be on the Appropriations Committee where you can really dig into these budgets. So absolutely, it's a district that wants to see good fiscal management, and that's going to take looking at the tax structure too. It's not sexy, but our fiscal structure needs to be fixed because it's a means to an end for everything else. We've got taxes that other states don't have. We've got a complex tax system. It makes us uncompetitive compared to other states.
Well, and quite frankly, it's a political honeypot. With all the redistricting and consent decrees and things that have been going on, you can pretty much get elected in a lot of these districts by going and saying, I'm going to give you more.
I've got a lot of confidence. I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't very hopeful for Louisiana. And, if I'm fortunate enough to get there, there's going to be a whole lot of other new faces. And when I see the type, and I've met a lot of the candidates who are trying to become first-term legislators. So I've got hope that maybe some new faces we get there. Maybe we form a caucus together and get some things done, and maybe it'll be reform-minded. I'm reminded of when my former boss, Congressman Baker, was in the state legislature and formed a group called the Young Turks. And they were the younger set of legislators who got together, and they were reform-minded, and they got some good things done. And maybe we can replicate that.
Where do you stand on infrastructure? I mean, we're going to need more money to do the things we need to do, particularly here in the capital area, like a new bridge, more capacity on I-10. Where do you stand on that? Are we going to have to raise taxes to make that happen?
Well, as I said earlier, I do think a gas tax increase needs to be in the mix. What I'd like to see is a really good analysis of, just how much does that need to be. If we can do, when we talk about for years comprehensive fiscal reform, what gets left out is the fact that anything down at the state capitol that doesn't currently receive general fund dollars is totally forgotten. It's like that stepchild that we shouldn't even care about, even though it's a major priority. So we need to look at if there's going to be some real fiscal reform. It has to lead to us not spending general fund dollars on things out of the current gas tax proceeds. So I think a package of bills. Representative Paul Davis had a bill in the last session talking about using excess sales tax revenue to supplement transportation infrastructure dollars. So I think a package of bills, it shouldn't rely totally or solely on a gas tax increase, but we've got to do something, and we're going to need to build coalitions across the state. I think the folks up in Shreveport sometimes look at us like, we already got all of our loops up here. Thank you very much.
We're in good shape.
And we in Baton Rouge, we've been kind of subsidizing all those projects for the last 30 years. And there's and part of it is our fault. And one of the major reasons I'm running is to bring people together And that's why we formed the Coalition Crisis. When I worked in state government, right down the hall from the Construction Facility Planning and Control Office, and worked with DOTD and the governor's office, they were not going to make the capital region's priorities for us. They were not going to make those decisions. Where the LA1 people know what they want, they got funding. The I-49 people know what they want, they got funding. We had a delegation saying, I want the bump, I want the Northern Loop, I want this, I want that. And we ended up getting nothing. And what we needed to do was put together an analysis that Crisis did to show us these are the 4 big projects that we need. And now we've had a unified delegation. We got the I-10 expansion in Ascension. They've got the funds for the I-10 widening in Baton Rouge. There's progress being made in the planning toward a new bridge. You know, that's the kind of thing we're going to need. We're going to need to be unified, and we're going to need to use data to show why we need to get what we need to get.
When it is likely that if you're elected right in the middle of your second year, we're going to get the census data, and chances are likely that we're going to redistrict. And I guess chances are very likely that the redistricting is going to be done by the legislature. What are your opinions on the proper way to put that together?
I have to admit I don't have a lot of opinions on that, Bill. I've been studying a lot of issues. Maybe that's one of those issues that in my mind I'll be getting ahead of myself, as I've not been elected yet, but it's definitely something that I'll be studying up and be prepared for. You know, I'm a pretty quick study. Obviously, I want to see fairness in the process, but I'm not really a subject matter expert yet on the census.
Well, and see, that's the thing that I see. Are we going to be looking at economic parity to draw districts? Are we going to be looking at party parity? Are we going to be looking at disadvantaged versus advantaged? I mean, I would love to see a redistricting where they balance the median income in all of them to where they're within a few $1,000s of each other. And even if that means some districts that have to be long and thin as opposed to those that are square around, at least it takes all the handout-prone people out of the legislative process, because there aren't enough of them in any one district to get you elected or tossed out. But I don't know that that's doable.
We call that profita-mandering.
I would be happy to lend my name to that.
Well, look, I'm sure there's going to be lots of different models. You know, maybe I'll be lucky enough to know some of the folks who are responsible for the map making, and I'll tell them they need to come on Morning Exiles.
Oh, we'd love to have them. Now, a lot of candidates come in and they talk about all the things that are wrong with state government. You're a more introspective guy. There are some things that we're doing right. What do you see that we're doing right at the state level?
Wow, I've not been stumped.
And if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong.
Well, I mean, I think there's been a lot of progress made on coastal protection. They're doing a good job with that. They've set up those processes. I know Congressman Graves did a lot of work when he was in charge of coastal prior to running for office. So there are some good things. I think we've seen, you know, I'm somebody who has worked in government, was with the congressman when Katrina hit, and, you know, it just popped into my mind when you talk about the flooding happening today. I think we've come a very long way with our disaster response from what it was. You remember Katrina, where none of us knew what was going on. There was no communications from whether it was the congressman's office or the radio station. We all felt like it was our job to get the information out to people, and it was chaotic. So I think we've come a really long way there, and that's a good thing for the safety and protection of people and property. You know, I have got a lot of friends in state government. There's a lot of good people doing things, doing their job, doing it well. You know, make sure they're providing services to people. I don't know if I've got a specific program that I would highlight, but, you know, there's good people in state government. What we need are leaders who are showing them sometimes there are better ways to do things. You know, I worked 6 years at the Division of Administration. Sometimes there's pushback from folks who are like, well, that's not the way we do things. Well, let's try something a little different. Maybe we can get better results. Maybe we can save the taxpayer a few more dollars. So that's kind of the approach I've always had. I'm not somebody who says we need to slash spending across the board, because you might cut off the head of something that's working real well, while giving a reprieve to something that's not. So that's kind of my view on state government. Is there's good people, but sometimes it takes people with a little more reform-minded push to get them to work on some things in a better way.
Michael, do you have a mission in mind? I mean, when some people run for the state legislature, they go because they want to push through legislation to do blank. Do you have such a mission?
I don't know if I would put it in such grandiose terms. I have a personal mission to make sure I'm accomplishing things for the people in the 70th district. If there's a way to straighten out the state's fiscal situation, our tax structure, our spending structure, as a means to unleashing the potential of Louisiana as as this great engine of economic opportunity, okay, that does sound kind of grandiose. But that's something that I think it's so important. We've got 3 young adult children, and I worry about jobs. I think that is the number one concern of parents our age is, are they going to have to leave to get a career? We're the type of parents who, if they want to explore the world, we're more power to them, but they should at least have the option of staying if they want. So that's kind of the mission, is we want opportunity for our kids, and that's going to take some reform. It's going to take some hard work at the legislature. There are a lot of problems that didn't grow up overnight, and they're not going to be fixed overnight. But you have to have hope and maybe a little bit of courage to try to tackle them.
A couple of the gubernatorial candidates are running on ads that say, we have the worst economy in the nation. Now, we have been hearing that our economy and our economic development efforts are improving. How do you feel about how we are doing with economic development and job creation in this state?
So, you can always have fun with statistics, Bill. And it's a tale of several cities. We've got really strong growth in the Baton Rouge region and Lake Charles. New Orleans is rebounding. Lafayette is in a deep hurt, and Central and North Louisiana are kind of trying to hold steady. I think it is accurate to say that compared to the rest of the country, we're not doing well. But at the same time, it's fair to say, we've got more jobs than before, but we need to be at least growing. We've got the slowest growth in the country, and so we need to do more. I would say, I would side with the 2 Republican candidates saying that we need to do a whole lot better, because other states around us and around the country are kind of leaving us in their dust right now.
How do you feel? I know you've studied it, and I know you've observed it, and I know you've worked in other capacities where you've had to work to the legislature. How do you feel about the fact that our legislature in both houses has kind of become a giant auction house? So you have stupid things like the stripper bill that somebody trades off for something else. Now there's going to be a whole bunch of new people coming in. Do you think you can kind of streamline that a little bit so we don't spend tens of millions of dollars every year fighting stupid laws that are unconstitutional because somebody's granddaughter asked me to write this bill and then I traded it for votes?
Well, the first thing I'm going to try to do to be effective is not, before I even get there, tell my future colleagues they're stupid.
No, so, there's plenty of time when you get there.
What I'm going to try to do is focus on the legislation that I think is important. As you mentioned, since I've kind of been there before, my mission would be the very first day, I'm going to have a checklist. I'm going to go and I'm going to meet with everybody, talking about it in terms of an auction is maybe one way of characterizing deal making. I think there are more positive deals that can be made, and there's not been a lot of positive deal making down there. When we had bills brought forward last year by good government groups like PAR and Cable and Lasers to do long-term pension reform, which is so needed with all of our long-term debt, and the governor just he killed it. He winked at his allies in the Senate, and it died. Where there might have been a deal to be made. We were in the midst of a marathon series of special sessions, fighting over the head of a pin difference on a sales penny. There might have been an opportunity for some deal making there. If you want to call it an auction, to me the winner of that auction would have been the Louisiana people if people could work together on something positive. Now I think I understand your
when I say auctions, I'm talking about the BS bills, and we all know what they are.
I think you can have confidence that I'm not going to be bringing the BS bills, but I'm not also going to welcome myself to the chamber by characterizing my future colleagues' efforts.
No. I mean, they can do that all on their own. We used to have a philosophy when we did this every day. It was like, we don't have to call them names. Sooner or later, they'll just do it for themselves. So
I'm agreeing without saying anything.
That's right.
Very political.
Our time with you grows very short, and I rarely do this. But I will tell you, I have known Michael and I have worked with Michael on projects for, I guess, 20 years now, and I feel very good about you taking this next step and jumping into public service, because I know you to be a decent, honest, earnest, hard-working man that will try to get things done.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's what it's about. It's you hear politicos say it. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do this. It sounds corny, but it's a calling now. It's a mission to get some things done, and I appreciate y'all giving me the time this morning.
Glad to have you.
And with 5 of you running, I'm sure there's going to be a runoff, so I'm sure we'll talk again.
We will have another opportunity. We're in the home stretch now. I will be strongly advising people about the need for early voting because it's the Florida game. It's October 12th.
Yeah.
And the District 70 basically is the path into campus. So everybody get out there and vote early.
There you go.
For me.
Early voting is going to be key this year, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very big, and this is an important election.
Good luck to you.
We wish you the best.
By the way, in all fairness, if
on.
anyone that is running against Michael for this seat would like equal time on this program, all you need to do is reach out to us. We will schedule you on a program between now and Election Day. And let me give you an email address. It's mine, kevin@kgallaghervoice.com. kevin@kgallaghervoice.com. Just reach out and we'll get you scheduled.
Absolutely. Michael, good luck to you.
Thank you, Bill.
We appreciate you. All right, before we get to Franz Borghardt here, I want to talk about our new segment called They Can't Speak English in the News Business.
Is that what you're going to call it?
I'll let the listeners and viewers think of another name. Please don't hit me with fake news. That's not what this is about. Today, our two examples, since our two examples before we had the segment formalized, both came from a well-known local television station that's affiliated with CBS and whose initials are WAFB.
Stop.
We're trying to spread the love around a little bit. We have two examples today. One was on BR Proud, which is Channel 33 and Channel 44, and it's 2 days ago, and it said, John Bell Edwards gets back from Sheriff's Association.
They gave him a spine? Some people.
Was he on a trip?
There's a whole joke to be told there.
Yeah. He gets
back.
He got the endorsement of the Sheriff's Association. Backing. And of course, he comes from a family of law enforcement and sheriffs and things like that, so that was no big surprise. But yes, that was the headline. Now today, again from BR Proud, this is a story about a parent's bad experience at a nail salon. Hard-hitting news there, okay? But here is the first sentence. With over 100,000 views on social media, one Winsboro father is going viral in a video posted over the weekend. A little tedious, but okay. Here it is. after what was supposed to be a day of fun for his daughter, getting her nails done for her cheerleading event. Period. It's not even close to a sentence.
Nope. Where's the rest of it?
I think that was supposed to be a semicolon, and then that takes up on the first part. But see,
Okay.
in most newsrooms today, the people who write and think a semicolon is a very short colonoscopy. They don't know it's a punctuation
Think
mark.
they know that bigger word?
Well, but anyway, those are your two for today. We're going to have a little feature. It won't take too long. Every time we get together, and we are trying very hard. We don't do this just to make fun of them, although that's the part I enjoy. We are doing this in the hope that producers, editors, and news directors will, in fact, require their people to speak to us in proper English. That is our hope. Joining us now, attorney at law, gadabout, all-around nice guy, Franz Borghardt.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are y'all?
Fine. I was at an event last night, so
Okay.
I couldn't.
You're always at an event.
Yeah,
I was at an event last night.
Were you?
I was at a Sullivan's event, Taste of Sullivan's, where they basically showcased all the meats, all the steaks, all that stuff. Really good event. Which event were you at?
I was at the Mathern's downtown small plates wine tasting.
How was it?
It was great because instead of a great huge dinner, they did 3 small plate courses, and they did 3 nice wines with each of the courses. And you weren't all bloated and filled up, because normally when Mathern's does it, they do a big steak as the entree.
Right.
But this was really nice. They did a citrus fruit salad with 5 or 6 different types of tropical fruits and shoestring potatoes, which made it real interesting.
So I love the Mathern's downtown.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a
And they
great
did
place.
a pretty good sized Natchitoches meat pie, about this big,
Gracious.
with some mid-weight reds, and then
About how big?
it was about this
That's a
big.
calzone.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right. That's not a meat pie.
Yeah, but they can't spell calzone in Natchitoches. They have enough trouble spelling Natchitoches, so it's a meat pie.
Okay.
And then they had a really nice handmade mushroom and feta cheese with a sweet onion sauce pizza about this big. It was 2 pieces, 2 halves.
So if I can digress for a minute.
Yes.
How does Bill Profita, who has strong opinions about certain things in restaurants.
Yes.
How does Bill Profita feel about this whole tapas small plates movement?
I love it.
Okay, so you're on board.
Anytime we go to a restaurant that offers that, locally, Bin 77,
Right.
they've got a lot of.
Yeah,
New
they got a
Solera.
great
The new
selection.
Solera, we went to their soft opening, and that was great. But more and more restaurants, I like flambe. You can do a small plates thing at flambe with some really nice French wines by the glass.
Okay,
But
okay.
I have been on board with small plates for
Since the
years.
inception, yeah.
Well, my first trip to Barcelona, which is probably 20 years ago.
His first trip to Barcelona.
Yes, yeah, I've been.
I can't say anything.
I've been thrice.
I'm about to go to Spain.
Yes, I've been thrice. But the tapas thing was all the rage in all the nice tablecloth restaurants, and I love it. I am a big fan.
I think this idea of being able to get tastes of different things in lieu of a giant steak. Now, last night I had a whole bunch of different little steaks. That was kind of our event. But man, I am a big fan of small plates. So
Well,
I think this whole topless grill thing is a bad
yeah,
idea.
the topless
I mean, because
grill.
when the meat starts spattering and everything, it can hurt.
Yeah. Really? You waited for that one? You can do better.
Yeah.
you were. I could see it was. He was sitting.
Yeah,
Kevin
yeah.
was sitting on that
Yeah.
joke.
Yeah, where am I going here?
Right.
But I think that one of the things that we're seeing in Baton Rouge,
Okay.
and in a lot of places around the country that have a good food culture, is we're seeing now, instead of having 5 or 6 salads on a dinner menu that you can choose from before your dinner, they've got cheese and charcuterie plates and small plates there. Or they might have, little like bouillon balls or miniature crab cakes. And, I know I should eat more salad. It's healthy. It's better for me. But I just don't like having soggy, drippy lettuce and tomatoes with, coming into my mouth.
Right.
I'd much rather have 4 or 5 pieces of really good lean meat and a really nice cheese, and then I'm, on to the entree. But the wine pairing with small plates is very good.
So I'm that guy that likes having the small cheese board as a dessert.
Very European.
Franz Borghardt. Very European.
I will tell
Maybe
you.
I need a man satchel bag. No.
No.
It's
No.
European.
No, please. I'll tell you a very quick story.
It's a man's
We had gone to Paris, and we have some close friends that had never been to Europe, and their daughter was studying in London, and her studies were ending at the time we all went to Paris. So they met us in Paris after picking her up, and we did Paris for a few days, and we went to Geneva, Switzerland. And they departed after a day or two in Geneva. Well, Karen and I were flying out back to the States from there. And so we asked the concierge at our hotel, I said, so do you have a really, really, really good Swiss dining cloth restaurant? You know, we don't want to eat fondue. And he said, right across the street at the Westin. All right, so this restaurant looked like a movie set.
Okay.
And not only were the waiters in tails, they were in white gloves.
Okay.
And they had a wonderful wine list. So we had a lovely dinner, and the maitre d' to over and he said, Madam, Monsieur, would you like the cheese and chocolate course as your dessert, or would you like, to see the pastries?
Right.
And we both said cheese and chocolate.
Right.
And he walked away with it. Well, don't we get to choose?
Nope.
He comes with this brass trolley that has 5 layers of cheese and chocolate, and he says, pick 8.
Pick 8.
Was it difficult to pick 8?
Yeah, because I wanted it all.
Right.
But but I mean, I love a cheese and chocolate course as a dessert. Very European.
So cheese is my vice. Besides cigars, which I shouldn't smoke,
And scotch.
and scotch, which
And
I love to drink,
Eating too much meat.
eating too much red meat,
And
on
driving
keto,
fast.
and driving. No, bad driving, not driving fast. My wife would tell you I'm actually a very slow driver.
We could go on.
Yes.
Very good driver.
But frail and perfect.
Very good driver.
But cheese is your weakness.
71.3
Cheese is
miles an hour.
I have difficulty when it comes to cheese. I have difficulty not eating good cheese. Which, and when I am the guy that goes to Whole Foods or Mathern's and just browses and says, I need that cheese, that cheese, that cheese, that cheese, and it gets out of control. At least at Whole Foods they have the $3 cheese bin. Yeah, where you can get like little pieces, and I go up to the register and I feel the judgment. Like, really, rather than just buying one cheese, you're gonna get
Well,
like
yeah.
15 little ones.
You
no,
breeding mice? What are you doing?
Yeah.
They love that stuff. The Fresh Market does it as well. And Calandros will do that for you. Charlie usually has some of the best cheeses in town.
So what I want someone to do, and maybe we'll do it, I want to do a study or conversation about all the different grocery stores we have that are local, that you can do food events at, like Mathern's. There's one on Highland, I can't think of the name of it, towards the outskirts of the city that I know they do food events.
Oh yeah. It's
You know the one I'm talking about.
I know the one you're talking
Yeah.
about. And had you not asked me, I could have told you the name. Yeah.
Right. So Calandra, I know all these places are doing like hidden like little gym events, and nobody ever really over advertises them. So you could go to an event like Mathern's, have great wine, great food, and then I would imagine the cost was very reasonable.
Very reasonable.
Yeah.
And again, they do it kind of small, so you can get good pours and good service.
Right.
The wine rep doesn't talk too long about the wines; he just gives you enough to know. But like this was for 30 people last night. It was set for 30. So you go and you get on their mailing list. But some of the things that people don't know, like at Calandros, Charlie actually goes for the European wines and tastes in their tasting rooms, and he says, "I want it all." And these are
want it all.
these are wineries that do
I want it
small
now.
case loads, and so you get some of the very best Italian and French wines in Calandros. They also now have developed enough of a relationship where they have private label. They have wines that are labeled Calandros. I've tried them all, and they're really very, very good. They're very circumspect about that, about their wines, their cheeses, their meats, their liquors.
Okay.
They're very big on that. I found that as far as doing it yourself at home, if you want a bottle of wine and some bread and some cheese, it's hard to beat Fresh Market.
Right.
It's hard to beat Mathern's. Robert's on Highland Road has a wonderful wine section, And the new Rouse's, the one on Lee Drive, I could live there. If they would toss a pillow under my head, at about 10:30 and lock the doors, I could live there.
So I know I was supposed to talk about law, but we can talk about food as long as you guys want to.
We do.
I mean, I'm just.
I was wondering, at some point we're going to talk about property rights?
Yeah, we do need to talk about this. So they had the unveiling last night at the council of the proposed ordinance.
I was not present, but I heard basically that it was a big nothing happened. That was the update I got was they nothing happened. I will tell you, gentlemen, as a lawyer, as a human being, I have a problem with someone, and maybe it's just the defiant side of my personality. I've never liked it when someone, particularly the government, says what you can and cannot do with the interior of your property. I have a big enough problem with homeowners association, and that's another conversation for another day.
I'm right there with you. I don't like HOAs at all.
HOAs, a little different because it's the exterior, and I get it. But this whole entire movement to dictate terms of what you can do with your property, whether it's your home, whether it's a rental property that you're electing to do short-term rentals on, it smells funny. There's some serious legal challenges to it, I think.
I don't understand what they're afraid of. It seems like it's the Spanish Town Homeowners Association. I don't know if that's their correct name. They're the ones that don't want people to be allowed to rent out their entire house.
Yeah, they don't want Airbnb in their neighborhood.
Oh, no, it's not just Airbnb. They're talking about if
short-term rentals.
Yeah, if you want to rent it for 6 months while your house is being gutted.
Yeah, I lived in New Orleans for several years. People would bug out for Mardi Gras and maybe rent their house out to somebody that wanted to be there.
So the complaints I've heard are parking. And that's a legitimate complaint. But by the way, if you've ever been to Spanish Town, parking's always an issue. That's not unique.
Mm-hmm.
And so parking, there is a concern that the historical preservation and nature of the neighborhood will somehow be diminished if we let short-term rentals, which I think is poppycock. I think that's just, I don't know why there's that concern.
We're getting into trying to solve a problem that is yet not apparent and social engineering.
Right. I don't believe it's a quote-unquote problem.
We don't want your kind of people in our neighborhood. Gee, where have I heard that before?
So the entity that most resents this short-term rental, I understand why they do it. The hotel lobby.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm a hotel owner,
getting in their pocket.
Yeah, nobody wants you to reach into their pockets. But here's the absurdity of this. It's a business transaction to lease your property for a year, for 6 months. And nobody has ever really seemed to have a problem with you leasing a year-to-year lease.
Right.
But when you start talking about days, like a couple of days, that's when people get all uppity about it. And by the way, Louisiana allows for a day-to-day lease.
Mm-hmm.
That's not prohibited under the law. So what we're getting into is government intervention in an area that may not be a problem. And by the way, it's the same concept as Uber, Lyft. It's allowing people to use that which is theirs for sensible profits. Now, you talk to some of these Airbnb guys, they're making more money doing Airbnb than they are doing rental.
Mm-hmm.
The wear and tear on their house is smaller because and in fact, I've never Airbnb'd before, so I've never gone through the experience. But it's my understanding that there's a cleaning fee associated with the. Yeah.
And you know what? If you rent out your house as an Airbnb and you don't like how they left it,
you can grade them, right?
Well, you can ban them from other Airbnb. And here's the whole thing, I've not heard in the last year of any raid on an Airbnb in town because there's prostitution happening there, or there's human trafficking happening there, or they're cooking up a whole bunch of meth there, or somebody stabbed their brother-in-law over the last pork chop from room service there. I haven't heard that happen. I've heard it at all the major branded hotels.
So, if you think for a second about where would you want to Airbnb, if you're not from Baton Rouge, where would you want to Airbnb in Baton Rouge? Near LSU, downtown. That's
Spanish Town, Borghardt Town.
Yeah, maybe mid-city, but probably not.
Garden District, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I really get nervous and finicky when people, the government, decide we're going to tell you what you can do with the interior of your property.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's a recipe for disaster. But legally, how will the government do it? They will say that they have an inherent interest. It'll be a public policy economic argument of, well, we need to protect these historical places. We also need to protect the economics of the hotel, that's kind of a shady, like they can't really do that, right? You know, so it's a form of expropriation, if you ask me.
Well, they were making a lot of these arguments with Steve Myers and his rental properties in South Dallas, and he rented to a lot of LSU students. And the first argument they made was there's not enough parking. If you've got 4 people that are, students living in that house and they take up 4 spaces.
Neighbors didn't like a front yard full of cars.
Yeah. Okay. Then we got into the goofy ordinance that you can have no more than 2 people who aren't related to the other people living in a house together under a rental agreement.
Probably unconstitutional.
Well, I think that one got kicked.
Yeah. Fellas, the person that wants to make more money through renting on a day-to-day basis, why are we taking money away from that person?
Well, why are we getting into things that are not our business until a law is broken? Why are we trying to write an ordinance which would have the impact of law to regulate in the eventuality of something that is not yet apparent? See, that to me sounds like a lot of prior restraint.
Well, that would be the argument. That's going to be one of the arguments. There'll be a due process argument. There'll be a expropriation argument. Somebody is going to sue the city when they do this. And candidly, why is the city the one doing this? Wouldn't this be better positioned by the state legislature?
Well, that would be a hydra. But I mean, there are people in the council members district that said, we're tired of this, can you give us some relief?
Yeah.
And so she's representing her district to that extent. I get that. But here's the whole thing.
I don't think that Ms. Wicker has a
dog in the hunt.
I don't think she personally has a dog in the hunt. I think she's just responding to a constituent request.
But here's the deal. I can't go to my council person and say, you know what, the neighbor next door clips his toenails while sitting on his front porch, and I don't like it. Because I've heard that he might invite other people that like public toenail clipping to come over one Saturday afternoon and do it with him. There is no crime that's been committed yet. There has been no fracture of law. There has been no zoning problems. There has been no mass towaway of cars clogging streets.
If you want to regulate it, you could regulate it like a hotel. You could regulate it. You could tax it. And then, by the way, Airbnb, it's my understanding, they do charge taxes for.
I think they're included in the hotel occupancy.
Yeah, they are
tax.
now. Yeah.
So, I mean, and by the way, part of the story is not everybody can live in Spanish Town. So if I want to have a weekend getaway, let's say I decide I just want to have a staycation and I want to stay in downtown in Spanish Town. Isn't there an argument for, is the only way I can experience what it's like to be in Spanish Town is if I buy a house and live in Spanish Town? I mean, isn't there an argument for part of this Airbnb culture is not just affordability of living in places or staying in places, it's having a different experience
People
in
want
that
the
place.
neighborhood experience.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
you may want to try it before you buy it.
My problem with all of this is a lot more visceral. You're coming through my front door without a warrant, and you're telling me I can't have these people staying here.
Right.
My property taxes are all paid up. They're parked legally. Why are you here, and why are you desiring to put it into law that you can do this at will? I have a big problem with this.
Well, the point you made on a Facebook comment thread about it, yes, the most important thing is how much money is going to be spent trying to defend this thing if the city parish council
Hundreds of
passes it,
thousands.
because I don't think it's going to stand up to constitutional muster.
I think that's the big problem. Is somebody now? The problem is going to be somebody. The firm will be a nice, pristine Brazil Saxy.
It'll be one of the big downtown.
One of the big,
firms.
Keen Miller. It'll be a big firm that does it. The city will utilize, the parish attorney's office.
Until it fails the first time, and then one of the great big firms downtown will take the city's case.
So actually, if you challenge the constitutionality of the law, I think the AG's office steps in. fellas. So,
But they'll still litigate it. They'll still have litigators.
right.
I mean, because again, you're really getting into the weeds on this stuff.
I look, like I started, I don't have a problem, while I'm not comfortable with a homeowners association that makes crazy rules that don't make sense. Our old house, before we moved to Mid-City, we lived in Sumacourt, the only residential strip in the what will soon be the medical district.
Yeah.
Beautiful little garden home strip of street. They made a HOA rule to where you could have no more parking in your driveway. You had to put your car in your garage. And I told those people, I said, you've lost your mind. I said, there is no way you can legally make me, and not only that, my truck at the time wouldn't fit in the garage. I said, you can't prohibit somebody from parking their car in the driveway. Like,
Well,
have you lost your mind?
It's my property. I'll do with it what I want.
You get a lot of tin pot despots in HOAs.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll be tracking this. I missed the meeting last night because, again, I had a food event. I mean, food takes precedent over council.
Over bandwidth.
Glad you got your priorities straight.
You know, we seem to worry about a great many things that, generally speaking, could cause us no harm. And Kevin has spoken of this a lot, and I agree with him. Is, hey, don't look over there. The body's dropping in the street and the blood in the storm sewers. Look over here at this Airbnb.
It's the creation of a problem that's not a problem, and so that you can create a solution and distract from the other stuff that you're not doing. You know,
It just doesn't sound like Tara Wicker to me.
Well,
You know, that hasn't been her track record.
one of the duties of a council person is to listen to the concerns of their constituents.
right?
And I don't know whether Tara tried to talk them out of this, tried to moderate their stance or whatever, but at the end of the day, she pretty much has an obligation, unless they're asking to do something illegal, to bring it at least to council for hearing.
So if this is one of those St. George-esque, and I'm saying that esque, let's let everybody decide, right? Because last time I checked, council makes the ordinance, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's not like going to go out to the people. It's the council,
Well,
right?
now,
Right.
the planning director apparently assisted in writing this ordinance, and again, I have a great deal of respect for our planning commission here in Baton Rouge. They have done wonders because we had no such thing for many, many years. But Mr. Duke, stay in your lane. This is not planning, because planning is more global. How many houses are we going to put on this street before it becomes a traffic hazard? How's the drainage going to work? This is inside residences that already exist. So, Mr. Duke, I would respectfully advise you to stay in your lane on this one.
I just, there's arguments towards gentrification and how people will buy up these properties and then turn them into massive Airbnbs. We're not, as a city, we're not there. Like, this is not New Orleans. We're not there.
Even if it were, where is the harm?
Right. And
If somebody bought the Capitol and turned it into a giant hotel, I'd be gleeful.
So remember, the big discussion was that these changes, these provisions of allowing this Airbnb-like environment, one of the discussions was that it encourages crime. I have seen no crime
What?
statistic. Yeah, like
What?
It encourages crime.
And what do they use to back that up?
I have seen nothing statistically here to show that any Airbnb, yeah, right? It's kind of like, that doesn't work for me. The historical argument of, it diminishes a historical neighborhood and all that, I don't get it. That homeowner is still bound by the same rules of the subdivision, the same rules of the neighborhood. They have to accommodate that.
They don't go away.
Right. So I'm just at a...
Let me tell you what this really is. This is about a bunch of people that are aging hippies and parrot heads that like standing out with their, going yellow gray ponytail and their joint in their pocket and their 55-year-old Hawaiian shirt and their cargo shorts with a hole in the ass, standing out front, and they don't want people seeing them doing it. They want this to still kind of be a commune with doors from the 1960s.
That's a pretty fair assessment.
You think?
I don't feel like that's inaccurate. And
No, it's not inaccurate.
I feel like this is one of those. You ever heard the phrase "shut the f up"?
Yep.
This to me feels like one of those. Like, you just want to look at people and be like, this is not a problem. Like, everybody was like, no, Lyft and Uber is going to ruin everything. One of the best things that's happened for our city is that you can get a ride now home on a digital app that ensures, for the most part, like 98% assurance that you're going to get from point A to point B. Yeah, occasionally there's drunk Uber Lyft drivers. Yeah, there's occasionally the Uber Lyft driver that may or may not kidnap or rape you. But that is a low percentage, right?
Well, it's an exceptionally low percentage, and it's not happened here.
Right.
And it's unlikely to happen here.
And I get it. If I'm the hotel lobby, I don't want this coming. But you know what? The hotel
It's not
lobby,
like you're going to lose that
if
much
we're-
business.
If we're being candid, the hotel lobby has benefited from this council and this city quite well for a number of years.
Yes.
Well, and we have encouraged them because we do still need more hotel
Right.
rooms. But again, there is a business solution to allay your fears. If you are one of the big ones downtown, put in a really attractive weekend rate that competes with Airbnb, and I'll bet you'll diminish your losses. Right now, on weekends, your rooms are sitting empty probably.
So we've done staycations downtown.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go to the Watermark, and we'll stay. We'll check in on a Friday night, stay Saturday. I like staycations. I like the idea of staycations. I'd be curious what Visit Baton Rouge's opinion on this is, if they even have an opinion on this.
I think they're
Put in
going
a
to.
call to Paulie Walnuts.
I think they're going to hold their tongue until they see. Paul and his staff have been doing this long enough to know that they're not going to jump all over an ordinance that's poorly written on its face. They did manage to get Airbnbs included in the hotel motel tax, which I think was a big victory because a lot of cities have not been able to do that.
So what you're going to do is you include them in the tax. They've been accommodating and paying you the money for the tax. And now what you're going to do is
You can't take any more business.
right.
Right.
Smells a little funny to me, guys.
If and I don't know that the hotels have a competition issue. I think a lot of their opposition to Airbnb is just pro forma. It would be like if just on the other side of Trader Joe's, another Italian cafe opened up. Lance would pretty much be obligated to say, "Well, I think it stinks. We don't need two of us in this one neighborhood." But we have gone on long weekends in major cities, and we've done this for 30 years. And the way in those cities that they don't lose a lot of revenue to Airbnb, particularly on the weekends, is like you go to Washington, D.C., and you can stay at the Intercontinental, where during the week it's $700 a night. You can stay there for $129 on Friday and Saturday. You can go to Chicago, and you can stay at the world famous, Hilton Chicago and Towers, and $99, or the Drake, $99 a night. That's the way you compete with that.
So are we also going to say that bed and breakfasts, which are short-term rentals, we're going to put those folks out of business too? How is a bed and breakfast different than? I mean, theoretically, how is it
hosted.
different?
It's hosted. That's about the only
Yeah.
difference.
Right.
Yeah, there's
It's a residentially.
Yeah, there's
You're
a
letting
host on
somebody
the
stay in your
premise,
house,
yeah.
but the host is on the premises rather
Yeah.
than being just
Right.
gone.
I don't like it. I don't like the way it feels. I don't like the way we need to tell those people what to do with their property too.
Mhm.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense, right? Guys,
Franz doesn't like it.
I not only do I not like it, it's emblematic of, like you say often, it's not really it's a distracting problem that's not a problem. And so
The whole thing stinks like yesterday's diapers. Hey, before we go, because our time is drawing nigh, I just wanted to tell you both, I told this to Bill yesterday. I was driving through downtown yesterday, and I actually saw someone riding one of the bike share bikes.
what'd you think?
It was exactly what I would expect to be riding the bike share bike. It was Poindexter.
Okay.
20-something Poindexter riding the bike share bike.
So I was in Denver recently, and they had the scooters, the motorized scooters, and it was quite interesting to
Now,
be just.
I would be so up for that.
Scooter is different than pedaling a bike. Do you want to work in the cubicle next to the guy who pedals the bike
See,
through downtown Baton
here you
Rouge?
go back to your BO argument.
I'm telling you, man. People sweat when they ride a bike.
I'm gonna take the new proposed ordinance
You ride a bike?
argument. I don't like the way it looks when these people are riding those bikes. First of all, they're all girls' bikes.
It's aesthetically displeasing to me.
Yes, it's
and
ruining the neighborhood.
It hurts my eyes.
Well, we can't say publicly what I commented about why Poindexter was riding that bike. He was getting a certain type of massage.
That's about the good place to let it go, right there,
That's it
Bill.
right there. Well, we thank you all for being with us. We will be back on Tuesday.
Stephen Wagasback, LABI.
Yep.
With us on Tuesday morning.
With their election picks. You know, they are a big endorser all over the state. And so Stephen Wags will be with us on Tuesday. Make sure you will be too. Everybody have a great weekend.
Also working on Scott McKay. His new novel is publishes today. And I'm doing the audio book, but it's not ready yet.
Yes, Kevin is reading the script for the audio book.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
But we're going to get him on next week as well.
So thank you all for being with us. We'll
Good
be
seeing you,
back on
Franz.
Tuesday. Ta-ta.